They say the music isn't just in the printed notes, but in the rests as well. If you don't have breaks or pauses, everything flows on and the brain doesn't have a chance to process things. Music requires a rhythm, a regular pace of melody and breath, of pausing, of, well, what's in musical terminologies, rest. There are notations you might know in the music. There's the familiar running lines of melody, and then there are places where it looks like nothing. That little sign means a rest. It's a place in the music where you pause, where you don't play, and you let the melody finish, like when you come to the end of a sentence and there's a period, or a question mark, or an exclamation point. Rests do the same thing in music, and you need them. Anybody who writes music, anybody who plays music or even can listen to music knows you need places where the music pauses and then you move forward. So at the beginning of a waltz like this of Chopin's, you can hear the regular rhythm, the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and you can hear where there are rests. It goes something like this. And after 2 beats rest, the melody begins. A simple melody, right? You can hear it again. So simple, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and there are rests in between the phrases, right? Now, if you are writing a waltz, presumably it's people will dance to it, and you need a rhythm. You need places where the beat falls and places where there's a rest. That's how dancing music works, right? You can have something experimental where the tempo keeps changing or the rhythm and the meter keep changing, but that's hard to dance to. If you've written a waltz, that's something you need to move to. And so you need the structure of downbeat and offbeat, of melody and rest. You need that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But if you are Frédéric Chopin, the composer, and you understand something of the liveliness of real music, you know that even a waltz that's meant to dance to needs to have places where you suspend the rules and you add a note that doesn't say we don't need rest, but imposes itself where the rest should be. So Chopin's written this melody that starts following the rules. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Rest. And then this note. And again. And then the melody can start again. The extra notes, not my wrong ones, but the extra notes in there that don't fit in the rhythm, that little sort of those are called, and Lutherans will enjoy this, grace notes. They're given for free, and they insert themselves in there, breaking the rules, you could say, of rhythm and meter, right? The strict rules are 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Never do you break the rhythm. 2, 3. Always keep the beat. 2, 3. And a grace note causes an additional piece of music, a note, an additional bit to the melody. This simple it's the composer breaking his own rules, right? He's written the waltz. He knows the rules of the waltz. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. He's told us in black and white, this piece of music has 3 beats to the measure, and that's how much a waltz has. And then he's broken his own rules for the sake of melody, for the sake of the music to come alive. If you are too slavishly stuck in the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, it stops being lively. You could waltz to it, but it feels more like a zombie drudge. But when there's something lively and it is unexpected, that, stretches the rules, breaks the rules of musicality, that breaks even where the rests are supposed to be, the music is alive. I want to suggest to you that's the way the followers of Jesus make sense of his teaching about Sabbath. We sort of have to take sort of two levels of conversation here. One, in the ancient memory of God's people, the ancient Israelites, Sabbath was a gift. It was a rhythm of work and rest. And it was a rhythm of rest that they had not been given when they were enslaved in Pharaoh's Egypt, right? There was no way the bully king of Egypt gave slaves a day off. There was work, 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 and then when you're done working, building things for me, then you can work to do subsistence farming and feed your families, but there's no rest. And when the people are set free and are going to have their own new life, their own new way of being a people together, God gives them the rhythm of work and rest called Sabbath. 6 days of work, 1 day of rest. And it's not just for the bosses, but for employees, for children, for hired hands, and for servants, and even for animals. The land itself gets to rest. There's this rhythm of work and rest that is necessary for life. The same way in music, you need to have rest in the music for the melodic thought to come and then to pause and catch your breath, and then we move forward, right? You need that rhythm of work and rest, of melody and silence. And at its best moments, ancient Israel knew that the gift of Sabbath was meant to be a gift to rejuvenate and restore life, so that nobody got burned out, so that nobody was taken advantage of forever, so that nobody had endless work with no respite, no chance to catch their breath or change things up. At its best, ancient Israel kept Sabbath and understood it was about preserving and restoring their life, each other's lives, and even the lives of all of creation. But like anything, it is possible to misunderstand a commandment. It's possible to misunderstand something created good and turn it into something so wooden and ossified, petrified, that it loses its liveliness. That was exactly the issue by the time Jesus comes along, where people had been so worried about breaking Sabbath rules. They debated with each other about how far you were allowed to walk from your house and whether that counted as work on the Sabbath day, the day of rest, or not. Or if an emergency came up, if your animal fell into a ditch and was going to die because it was stuck there, was it work to pull it out of the ditch? Was that breaking the rules of the Sabbath? And Jesus comes along and says, you guys are missing the point. Sabbath was always meant to be about giving and preserving life. Think about it like the rest and the grace notes. That, the music is written, that there will be a regular rhythm of music and rest, of notes and silence, a 1, 2, 3 count, or in the Sabbath count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then a seventh day rest. But there are times, for the sake of preserving, of restoring life, where, it's okay to violate the strict letter of the Sabbath rule, and there's a grace note. Where the extra note, where the extra effort is okay. It's not a matter of breaking the rules and getting demerits on your score with God. It's a matter of occasionally the melody requires, even though there's a rest printed in the music, something else is allowed to be done. So Jesus heals people, for example, on the Sabbath. Jesus doesn't get fussy when his disciples pluck heads of grain while they're walking on the Sabbath and eat them, even though technically that counts as milling grain and could be counted as bakery work. Jesus says the point of Sabbath was never to be an ossifying, stifling, suffocating rule that would suffocate us, but rather something that would bring us more fully to life. And if our understanding of Sabbath is actually suffocating us, killing us, making us less alive, we're missing the point. Sometimes we church folk get hung up on this Sabbath business and assume it's about we have to go to church so that we can praise God, as though God needs to be paid once a week with praises or hymns or songs or offerings. Sabbath isn't first and foremost about going to church. At least it wasn't originally. It's a day of rest. It's a day of enjoy the world God has made and remind yourselves the world will not fall apart just because you didn't make some widgets today at work. It's a reminder that God is God and we are not. That God keeps the universe going even when we take time off. Sabbath is meant to be gift to us, and we have a way of turning it into a burden we think is necessary to impress God or rack up points or to compare our relative righteousness to each other. Jesus has come to unmask all that. Jesus says the gift of Sabbath is meant to restore life. And so there are going to be times when the strict following of the letter of the Sabbath rule actually inhibits life. And Jesus has come to bring melody back to the music. Grace notes, if you will, back into the melody, rather than being so strictly tied to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 that it feels like drudgery. Jesus has come to bring life. It's worth remembering that. And so when we gather on Sundays, we give praise and thanks to God for giving us life, but let's be clear, what happens on our days of rest, what happens even when we gather in worship is not primarily about us doing stuff for God, aiming things up at God, but about God's gifts given to us and about us stopping for a moment to be thankful for the one who gives us life and love and grace, who feeds us with bread and cup, who claims us in the waters, who surrounds us with the gift of one another. That's about life. And that's the conversation we're having this coming Sunday. So join us this Sunday as we explore what it means to live both in the rest and in the melody, and to be people who make room for grace notes. See you Sunday.